Well, hello once again, everybody. Today we have a Wells Gardner U5000 25-inch on the bench here, and this was sent in by David from the Morristown Game Vault. And he attached a note here along with it. And if we read this note, it says, U5000 on my shelf, looks like new flatback and capped. I noticed HOT shorted, so I put a new one in. The pads were not shorted, so that's good. Sorry I had to borrow the B plus pot from another chassis. If you get it working with one of your B plus pots, I have more on order, I Facebook messaged you, and my R765 is 363 ohms, but out of circuit it's 33K. You said something is shorted, but I can't find it. All right, so if we give this a look over, it is indeed missing the B plus pot. But that's okay, we can put a pot in there. It's a 1K ohm pot, and it does have a new FJL 6920. And I don't know why this wire is here. I'm gonna actually remove that because it's not necessary. If it's working and doesn't cause any issue, I'll probably leave it, but I've never seen a U5000 with this wire here that's almost exclusively for the K7500, so that's very odd. I'm not sure if somebody added that thinking that that was correct. And let's see if this was installed by somebody goes by the moniker Daffy Duck. Okay, all right. I was just wondering if this was the right correct flyback, but I'm pretty sure that it is because it's got the right grounding lug, and there's only one lug now. Someone could have bent the other lug underneath here, or other leg. But I'm just curious because I've never seen the U5000 with this wire here, like the 7500. But I'm digressing. Let's check the HOT and make sure it actually reads good. So the old HOT was shorted. Now, whenever you have a shorted HOT on the U2000 or U5000, there's always two resistors you must mandatory check because those are almost always the cause of the HOT shorting. But for this purpose here, we'll test the HOT first. Negative lead on the center leg and positive to each outer leg should be about 0.45 voltage drop. 0.438 and 0.438. So HOT register is okay in circuit. So you have a shorting HOT on a U2000 or U5000. R765 and R760 are usually the one or two culprits that cause this problem. And those resistors reside right here. R765 is a 33K ohm resistor, and R760 is a 100 ohm to 500 ohm resistor, depending on the reversion of the chassis. Reversion, however you want to refer to that. But there's different revisions of these chassis. There's, I believe, D, E, F, H, J, I. I think there are 6 different versions. I was just trying to think based off the label, but if we look here, this is revision F. So this can say D, E, F, H, J, I, depending on which revision you have. But for this purpose, we have F. Now, what's interesting here is that normally R760 is a much beefier wattage resistor. This guy here is usually a much higher wattage. This is like a 1/4 watt resistor. Now that's a little insufficient in my opinion. I need to look up the actual schematics in the manual and see what it calls out for their proper wattage, but that's a bit too small. And if we measure that, we get 100 ohms, 99 ohms. Now I'd say that's within the realm because it's 100 to 500 depending on the revision. But this is a late revision. F is almost at the end. F is, I think that's might be the, I think there's H, J, and I are after this one. So D, E, F. So this is the 3rd revision. Now I'm just going off of memory from these ones that I've seen, D, E, F. So this would be a revision 3 or the 3rd revision. Now I've never seen an ABC, so I'm just going off of my experience. I don't have any hard documentation that says, it starts at D, but I've seen D, E, F, H, J, I are the only 6 different revision decals I've seen on these chassis. But anyway, so hypothetically, this is number 3 in the revision list. So it's a later revision, but this is 100 ohms on F I think is wrong, because I have another revision F U5000 right here, and you can see here that this is a much larger wattage resistor here. This is like a 1 watt. Not a 1 watt, let's say probably it's not a half watt. This is a half watt here. I'm not sure what wattage that is. 3/4 watt, who knows? That's why it's the amateur channel. But anyway, if we zoom in here, you can see that this is a much larger wattage R760 compared to that other one. And if we measure that one, this is also an F, as you see. There's F right there. So both of them are revision F. And if we measure that R760 on this revision F chassis, we get 500, 472, 490, better, 472. So they're both revision F, and somebody has obviously replaced that one, and they put the wrong rating and the wrong wattage resistor in there. So we're going to have to change that out to a more proper resistor. But that being aside, I have seen these from the factory that no one has ever touched with R760 reading 100 ohms. Now, I don't recall what revision it was, but I have seen that before. But regardless, even if it is supposed to be 100 ohms, it'll operate at 100 ohms, but it's the wrong wattage at a minimum, so it needs to be a higher wattage. But if we check it again here, you can see it's only 100 ohms. Pardon me. There we go. Now, R765 is supposed to be 33 k ohm. If we check that, it's 360 ohms. You can see here, I'm checking R765 right below it, and it's 360 ohms. Now, why would that be? Well, something is bad, and I'm gonna have to figure out what it is. Now, if we check our other one here, we get, for 765, 33K, 32.62K. So something is wrong, and we're gonna have to figure out what it is. But as I'm looking here, I see some oddities. That's interesting. Let's see if I can get this all here in frame. If you look here, there's an extra little Zener diode. There's a Zener diode sticking in here onto one leg of R765. No, 765. A little extra Zener diode here that's coming up through and connecting over here to this leg of this resistor. So there's this resistor mod here is there, and then there's a little extra Zener diode in there attached to that leg of 765. But on this one, there's not. So I don't know. I don't know if that's something somebody did or what. I have no idea what that Zener diode is doing or what it's there or why it's there in the circuit, but I don't think that it was ever part of this chassis, so we're not going to worry about that. Just something I noticed there offhand. But, so let's go ahead and set this other one aside. So at the very least, we have one here we can take readings on and do comparisons and stuff. So, but for now, I'll get this out of our way so it's not, well, in the way. Okay, now we need to remove one leg of 765 and verify that it's 33 k ohm out of circuit like the note says. While we're waiting for the iron to heat up, this does look like it was a very well done cap kit. I don't see any caps they're all flat against the board like I like to see them. And someone's gone through and put a bunch of glue on all these. I've never seen anybody do that before. So you can see how the factory original glue that kept the cap from moving is there, that white stuff, but then they've gone through and put this clear, it's not really coming through too well on the camera. There's a bunch of clear glue on all these ones that had the white, there you can see it a little bit better, this clear like super glue looking stuff, this clear, I don't know if they thought that it needed the glue, but they went through and did that. There you can see how glossy that is there. So on all these caps that had the glue originally, they put glue back on it. Now, that's fine, I guess. No, I've never seen anyone do that, but someone did that on these. There you can see it real good. So, okay, I mean, whatever floats your boat, that's fine. And the bottom side, it's been reflowed, and it appears to be in really good shape. They've reflowed the video input header pins, over here, sorry, the power input header pins. It looks like they've reflowed the all the normal points that I do, the remote board pins, the neck board pins, the vertical IC pins, U701, all of the input pins for the resolution headers, power supply not so much, but the solder joints look okay. Yeah, I mean, pretty fairly impressive. Whoever this Daffy Duck person is, nice job, nice job. So let's get rid of this. Push down on the middle and slide this thing off of here. Otherwise, you'll slice your fingers open on the solder joints on the bottom side, or the legs, I should say. I want to inspect the solder joints for this resistor here that gets real hot. Yep, that's all good. We need to reflow the transformer for the power supply, but it's not bad. There's a couple of wonkiness legs here from the cap getting changed right here from pads being lifted. I'm sure they'd be fine without the extra legs there, but that's fine. We'll leave it like that. Okay, now let's get one leg of R765 lifted here. And right here. And let's just see what it reads out of circuit. And if it reads 33K like the note says, then we'll have to start seeing what's going on here. And that's going to be the true adventure. Okay, that's out. And with it out, we read 32.4K. All right, well, that is correct. So we'll put it back in and start checking various things, and when we discover what it is, we'll be able to see if this reads 33K in circuit after we find what the issue is. What does it read? Well, it's going to be 360, but let's go on the back side here. 373. I wonder if this transistor is faulty. Q708. Q708 can also be a cause of HOT shorting, but it's very rare. I just wonder if Q708 is the reason that 765 is reading that way. So if we do Q708, okay. 0.2, that's not right. I don't think 0.2 is correct. Let's remove 708 here. Okay, that's out. Let's clean up the pads so we can put it back in if we have to. Oh, now I know. Now I know why there's a glob of solder on there, because the pad's gone. And no, I didn't cause that. I don't scream at the camera. Well, you just caused that by the way you took it out. No. You see, there's a big piece of leg here that someone's put on here. So this had problems before, and I think someone just put a big solder glob across there. But so it wasn't me. Let's see if we can, I mean, the original trace and pad and stuff's right here. Let's see, we might be able to reuse it. Yeah, there we go. Actually, nope, I got it on backwards. Flip that around this way. Hey, look at that. All right. I think this was already lifted. And there was just one big solder glob across there, but I could be wrong, and most likely am, but hey, there we go. That should stay right like that. Okay, now let's check this guy, because that 0.2 reading, now you know what, before we check that, let's compare that reading on this one here that's good. That 0.2 reading was simply not what I expected to see. Okay, well, this one's all trash too. Interesting. Yeah, 0.6 and 0.6. Well, this may be the quickest video on the channel here. So if we put Q708 in here, what do we get? Well, maybe it's not going to be the quickest on the channel. Try it the other way. Well, it's not coming up bad, but that 0.2 reading is not correct. Yeah, it's not coming up as faulty, but I suspect it. Let's see what R765 reads now with that transistor removed. Place your bets. 33K! So, even though this is checking okay on the component tester, it's not reading good. So, when it was in circuit here, I was getting that 0.2 reading, 0.233, whatever it was, but on the working chassis, I was getting the proper 0.6 voltage drop. So, I think even though this was reading as a transistor, I think it's actually faulty. So, let's grab one from a donor board here. I've got a donor U5000 here. As you can see, it's been picked clean. But I have a Q708. Now, if we were to take this one out and the easiest pull method on these is you just add a whole bunch of solder to it. Right here. Add a whole bunch of solder to it and then pull on it as you heat this whole thing up here, and it, well, come on. Oh, jeez. Someone has got that in there. For show. There you go, right out. Okay. Now, let's straighten these legs a bit. Alright, so that should go in nice and easy. Easy, breezy, beautiful Transistor Girl. Transistor Girl, that's gotta be a better movie than Madam Web. Alright, so now let's get this in here. What am I doing? The heck am I doing here? Come on. Come on, you piece of junk. There you go. Man, what a nightmare. Okay. That's in there, looks good. Clean it up later. And now, with that in there, let's see what our R765 reads. If it reads 33K, then we absolutely had a faulty Q708. What do we get? 33K. Well, there you go. Q708, bad. Even though it reads good in the tester, this is our culprit. So let's do some cleanup. We'll add a B+ resistor. We'll do our light bulb test. We'll set it to around what 117 should be, because I got this LED bulb, and usually around 140-ish volts. It ends up being 117 when you're actually on the picture tube. So I'll explain that here a little bit. But I also want to try to replace R760 with the correct wattage and all that jazz. So let's take that R760 out of there. Is that the one that I just, it's the one I just fought with, but is this 100 ohms out of circuit here? I didn't check it after fixing that. Yeah, it's still 100 ohms. Okay, well, I want to replace that with a beefier one, because we've got another revision F over here that has a 500 in there, and I want to put a 500 back in there, so I'm probably gonna have to do some digging and find the right one. So let me pause here. I'll find a proper resistor and come right back. Okay, so in my little parts bin here for the 7400, 500, 2000, 5000, I did have a bag of B+ potentiometers, but they're not the right kind. They're the kind for the vertical. They're 1K pot. So 1K pot, I have marked here B+, but I marked B+ because to let me know that B+ is 1K, but these are the pots that go on the neck board, because all of these pots here for the bias pots, they're 1K also. That's what these are for. These are for the bias pot replacements on the neck board. And they'll act as B+ pots, but they'll be facing, you know, this way or that way, depending on how you install it, as opposed to straight down. So in this little bin, I also had this pot here that still has some of the glue on it from being a B+ pot that I robbed from some parts chassis over here in the closet, most assuredly. But it didn't have the little adjustment peg in there. And this is what it looked like that was in the bin. And it is 1K. You can see here, well, maybe you can't, but it says 1K right there. So it's the right pot and it works. I robbed it from some chassis at some point in the past, no clue. But I grabbed an extra Henrich Polo peg that I had. I'm gonna put that in here so we can actually adjust it. And I sprayed a bunch of contact cleaner down inside. When you clean these pots, you have to get this stuff like way down in there. And I don't even know if it's gonna do any good because there's a bunch of potting compound in there. But you wanna go down inside the legs here. It's the only way to get inside the enclosed, well, I don't say the only way. You can also go right here in the crack right there. Let's just spray some pressurized down in there. Then we'll wipe this back and forth a whole bunch of times, make sure it's good. And we'll put it roughly in the middle. And then we'll get this installed. Now also, I found a 500 ohm resistor, which actually I stole from that parts chassis I was testing on earlier. It's this resistor right here. If we look, 464. So we're going to use that. Now, of course, it's a lot beefier than it really should be. It doesn't need to be this large, but it will function, and it will give us the peace of mind that we know that it's not going to burn up in the future, being the wattage that it is. So let's get this installed first. Okay. And in all likelihood, that 100 ohm one might have been just fine, but it's too puny for really what should be in here compared to other stuff like the one over here that we were working with earlier. It's just too puny for my acceptance, if that makes sense. Okay, that's in there. And let's make sure that it is good in the circuit. So we'll touch this leg of the transistor and this leg of R765, and we get 466. So, okay, much happier with that. Now let's get this B+ pot in here. This guy, I cleaned off the feed on this thing, but it's still giving me trouble. There we go. Okay, that guy is in there. All right, so our Q80, was it 804? I forget already. B+ pot installed. Replacement Q708, I wasn't even close. Q708 and replacement R760 are installed. And I'm betting that will at least get this up and running, but we're gonna have to see here shortly. So we need to remove this leg of the jumper. All right, so for those of you who might be new to the channel or haven't seen this done before, I have a dedicated video on this that I'll link down below. But there's a little jumper here on the U5000 and the U5000. There's W159, there's a little jumper right here. And this is the output jumper for the B+ to provide B+ from the power supply to the rest of the chassis. So this little black box is the power supply, that's it. And the switch mode power supply. And by pulling out this little jumper here, that is initially, I forget the word I'm trying to come up with, I'm too old. That will prevent the power supply from outputting its voltage to the rest of the chassis here. So I can isolate the horizontal section, I should say, from the power supply by just pulling that little jumper. So with that jumper lifted out of that side of the trace, really either side doesn't matter, if the jumper lifted out of the circuit, we can power this up without anything over here energizing, and we can do our light bulb test. And by light bulb test, I mean we hook a light bulb, preferably a 60-watt incandescent. 60-watt incandescent is a perfect analog to the picture tube, so what will allow you to adjust your B+ on the bench. But I don't have a incandescent bulb. The incandescent bulb I had burned out. So you clip one leg onto that jumper, the other leg onto the frame here, and that will allow us to power this up. We also want to get a meter here. Now I'm using a, what am I using? I am using 800 lumen 8-watt LED bulb, and somewhere around 140 volts when we adjust our B+ ends up being around 117-ish. So we're looking for about 140 to 142 on our meter for volts DC. And when we adjust to that point, that should translate somewhere close to 117, because this bulb doesn't provide as much of a load on the power supply as the picture tube would. So it's not going to be completely accurate, but somewhere around 140, 141, 142 will be close to what we want. So let's get our meter hooked up here along with this. So of course, positive lead to the same leg here. Make sure you're not touching anything. Negative lead to ground. And yeah, we should get 140-ish. Yeah, okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yes, 142. Let's just go down here to 141 here. Let's just try 141.5-ish. Okay. How about that? I right in ballpark that pretty close right off the bat. So, and you'll see this the light bulb is draining the caps. So leave it hooked up, and if you are in a hurry or you don't want to wait for it, you can just manually tap the, we're already down to less than a volt. You can take the positive lead and just tap it to the frame and it'll discharge it immediately. So, okay, power supply is functional. B+ pot replacement is good. Let's hook that jumper back up and give it a little bit of an inspection. I'll probably just do that off camera. If I notice anything, I'll show it. If not, we'll just put it on a tube and see what it does. Let's get all this junk out of the way here. We're gonna still need that for ultimate B+ testing. Okay. Because that was the penultimate testing. I do want to tighten this up here. Our vertical sweep mod's a bit loose. That's good. Okay, neck board is in really good shape. All of our transistors are secure, they're not wobbling and broken, no bad pads, that's all good. Oh, we need to set these. So for these series of chassis, the U5000, U5000, K7400, K7500, these bias pots don't like to be any higher than about a quarter turn. Once you start breaching the quarter turn mark from 0, like all the way down about a quarter turn up, once you start breaching that area, your colors begin to bleed. So I like to set all these to about 1/4 turn as a good base point. Now the drive pots can be 50%. Drive pots go about 50% and just leave those there, but the bias pot's about a quarter turn is what you want to start with. Okay, now with that being said, this is all secure and looking good, so that's all fine. We can hook our remote board back up, give it a quick inspection. Someone's reflowed that, looks good. So whoever worked on this previously did a pretty good job. I gotta give them their props, but they did not reflow this section of the power supply, so I wanna hit that, but I'll just do that off camera, no big deal. But I'll give it another quick inspection, make sure nothing is amiss. This is, if you ever see this is a factory mod. If you saw that and was wondering what's going on there, that's a factory Wells Gardner mod for the power supply. So maybe to make it run a little cooler, I don't know, but that's a factory mod, probably to keep this resistor from going out of tolerance, because these resistors like to get really hot and they like to go out of tolerance quite often. So I think this might be a factory mod to prevent that from happening. But it is a factory mod, but I think that's what that's for. So I'll do some more investigative journalism here, make sure we don't have anything amiss or bad. And if we do, I'll show it on camera. If not, I'll come back, we'll have it on a tube ready to test. And hopefully it works. I do want to see if maybe I can break the glue off of the shutdown pot, because we're going to have to make sure that's adjusted to the proper 0.1 volts DC. So we might have to, I'll probably go ahead and just show that real quick. We'll see if we can do that. Okay. All right, so this has the glue on it. I can't turn that pot because of the glue. So the easiest thing to do is don't try to cut the glue on the side, like down here, because you can lift the pot off of the the carbon trace that gives it its resistance. You can lift it up off of there. So what I like to do is just cut on the top, and what'll happen is it'll break the glue on down further below. just like that. See, now that area of the glue is gone right there. So I'm going to see if I can keep trimming on this here. You want to try your best not to lift the top of this. Oh, success. I can turn it. Let's see if I can do this where you can witness it. But if I take this and I can turn it I can turn it this way. Well, I can turn it. Here, let's try it this way. There, see? Turn it that way. Turn it that way. If anything, it's going to have to go clockwise. So I think what we'll do is I'll put it back kind of somewhat where it was. I'll say roughly there. And sometimes it's that easy. I mean, I was able to get it to move off just a couple of snips there. And I clip the rest of that off because I want to be able to turn it all the way if I need to. And usually, you know, these like to sit, when you're at 0.1 volts, in my experience, they're almost all the way clockwise. So I'll just put it right there. Okay. All right, so we are prepped and ready. I'll go through and give it another quick look over, and then I'll reflow those spots here in the power supply. And then, barring anything that I find, I'll come back with it on a tube and we'll test it. Power supply is good. HOT isn't shorted. We are all back together, hooked back up. Everything is secure. Really good job on all the rest of the rework. We got 765 now reads 33K in circuit. We changed out R760. Q708 was bad, confirmed bad, and that may be our only issue. So yeah, all right, let me get this stuff done. I'll come back and we'll see what we got. Okay, so I got the reflow done on the power supply section. When I was doing that, I realized I forgot to solder the jumper back in for our power supply testing, which I think I mentioned. I'm sure some people were out there screaming at the video or at the screen, you know, hey, you forgot to put that in, you moron. You always forget that. But yeah, case in point, I always forget that. So I did notice it when I was doing the reflow, so I got that back in. And again, I don't know what this black wire is supposed to be doing. So if it doesn't pose any issues, nothing's going on, or half the screen's not black, then I'm just going to leave it because I don't know what it's supposed to, why someone put it in there. And in all honesty, yeah, I'm not sure what it's really supposed to be doing, because if you route that black wire the wrong direction through that ferrite core, the quarter of the screen here is black. So that's all I know that it does. So if this quarter of the screen's not black, then I'll just leave it. Not sure what it's supposed to be doing, but yeah. So everything tested good. We should be fine now. It should at least power up. I'm using the TPG here, standard res. It's hooked up in standard res. That's how I got it. So we'll start with standard res. If it works, then we'll go to medium res. But if there's other issues, we'll figure that out. I have the B+ ready to go. The test point, if you're unfamiliar on these series of chassis, on the 2000, 5000 is right here. There is a little test point that says, TP202 B+. You can't really see it, but it's right there next to that cap. So we're hooked up to that test point. Okay, we need power. There's always something that I forget. I did not count to 7. I counted to 5 before I turned, you know, when I put this on the frame and turned it around, I counted to 5. So I had anode neck, yoke ground, remote, and then I hooked up video and power. So there's the 7. So we're safe to try it on, or try it now and turn it on. Easy for me to say. So let's turn this on, and here we go. 1, 2, 3. Whoa, hang on. It came on, but our B+ was 141 volts. Let's do this again. Yeah, 141 is, I wonder if it's going into shutdown. Let's turn that up a bit. No, it is not working. Hey, there we go. The shutdown pot was adjusted up too high. I turned it up too high when I was messing with it. Okay. Now it's running, and we're at 120. Fantastic. Do we get anything? We do, but everything's turned down. So let's adjust our B+ here first. I'm going to be careful here when you're doing this. I'm going to reach in here and turn that knob. That's why I left that knob on there. And we're going to go to 117. We'll go to like 117.7. Oh, and it just shut down on me. I wonder if that shutdown pot is, we need to adjust that shutdown pot to 0.1. Let's make sure that's good first. Will it turn back on? No, it won't turn back on. Let's wipe this shutdown pot back and forth. It won't even turn on now. Well, now it does nothing. I don't get in. I don't get a tick. I don't get a... There's no tick from the power supply. There's no ticking from the HOT. Now it's just totally dead. Huh. Well, it worked for about 3 seconds. I don't smell anything, see any smoke. It doesn't... There's no outward signs of what it could have been. Maybe this B plus pot is faulty. Let me tweak this B plus pot just a little bit. Because with the B plus pot out of circuit, it won't do anything. Nothing. Well, it died when I was adjusting the B plus pot. Well, let me poke around, see what I can find. All right, so I got it figured out. It wasn't an issue with the chassis itself, no bad components. When it shut down, I was just kind of pushing on various things. I'd push in on the flyback, and then it came back on, and it came to life. I let go, and it would come back off again or shut down. And I thought it was a cold solder joint, but I thought, well, now wait a minute. On every one of these I've ever worked on, the sockets for the AC input connector are almost always spread open. Because over time, as the power connector is plugged in and it wiggles and wiggles and wiggles from moving the cabinet around or vibrations or what have you, those sockets will get opened up and opened up and opened up, and you get a bad connection on the pins going into the sockets. So I grabbed the tweezers and I went down in there and I squeezed those sockets back together for better pin retention, and now it's good to go. So that was the problem. It was shutting down because of a bad connection on the AC input for the sockets. And I can't tell you how many times people have had an intermittent K7400, K7500, U2000, U5000 where it works for a minute and shuts down. And they'll turn it on a couple hours later and it comes on, and they're in the middle of playing and it shuts down. And you think it's a shutdown pot or a cold solder joint or something, but 99.9% of the time it's just bad connection on the AC input. So if you have one of these, look at the sockets and make sure that they're not spread open. Make sure that, if anything, just take a pair of tweezers and squeeze them back together for guaranteed better pin retention, and that'll solve your issue most of the time. So anyway, that was the problem here, is that I didn't go over that or think about that until this point. So yeah, so that was the issue here. Let's go ahead and, man, I need to find a better place for this meter. Let's just put it right here so we can actually see it. Okay. All right, so with that solved, take two. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah, come right on. And we're at 119 again because I was tweaking that a little bit. Let's get back to 117. Okay, yeah, I thought the B plus pot was faulty and I was moving it around there a minute ago. So, all right, so B plus is now good. Let's go to our shutdown pot. Make sure it is 0.1. There's a little test point right there next to that cap, and we're at 0.7. 0.07. So we're going to turn this pot clockwise until we get to 0.1. Oh, a little bit too far. It's touchy. Real touchy, wow. Jumping all over the place. Man. It's either too little or too high. Oh, I had it there for a moment. Man, this is... I may just call that good, because that's about as close as I seem to be able to get. Oh, geez. There we go. 0.104, I will take that. So B plus good. Shutdown pot good. Turn the TPG on. And we, with no signal, is 0.1. I didn't have the TPG on. So we got to adjust it to 0.1 with the signal running. So there we go. Man, striking out here on this thing. adjustment wise. This pot is super sensitive. 0.9. Jeez. Okay, we'll just call that good. 0.12, close enough. Good to go. Now we gotta go back and check our B plus again, so it's gonna be interesting. Hook this up, try and do this. Nope. Got it. Okay, and still 117. All right, good. Okay, and we don't have an image, but we need to turn contrast down, brightness down, screen pot up until we get, oh, got H-hold problems. There we go. H-hold, there. Okay, now we need to turn our screen pot back down a little bit, roughly there. Let's adjust our focus. Ooh, nice. And yep, look at that. Left side of the screen, black line. Just as I suspected. So I don't know why that's even there. And not only is it there when it's not supposed to be, it's routed incorrectly through the ferrite core. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. This black line. If I go to the RGB, look, see that? Well, there. That black blob, that's this thing. Now, if I was to turn this off, cut that zip tie, actually, we'll just cut the whole thing. Cut that wire, pull this off, take that wire out of there. Now we got the two ends of the black wire here, not routed through the core. Get them out of the way. Now turn it back on. Still at 117, and our black line will magically be gone. What in the world? There we go. Brightness too low. See? Bloop. We need to readjust this a little bit. Turn that up right there. Oh, too high. There. Okay. Brightness roughly there. Contrast. Nice. There you go. If you got a black line on the side of your screen, that black wire is either routed incorrectly through the core or it's installed when it doesn't need to be. I don't know what the purpose of that's supposed to serve, but there you go. So let me get the camera on the tripod and we'll go through and do some more adjustments here. We have to switch this over to medium res and check that, and we'll use the TPG for that. If that all checks good, we'll use actual boards, give this a thorough test, thorough inspection, full adjustments, and we'll see how we can make this look, and we'll call it good. Alright, so we know standard res is good. Turn this off and back on. Standard res is good, so let's do H position right there. We'll do width right there. Vertical position is good. Height, no anomalies there. We need to redo our focus slightly. Right there, glorious. Okay, so there's standard res. Looks fantastic, works like a charm. Beautiful RGB. Now that stupid black wire is out of there. Fantastic. Okay, so let's turn this off. And I'll move our little white jumper over for our medium res operation. And then we'll move our resolution header over to the other one. And I lost my B plus alligator clip. We'll hook that back up. Okay. And we'll switch our TPG to medium, turn it on, and it should turn on to the checkerboard pattern. And we're at 116.5, 116.6, close enough. If we adjust our H position over, we are good there. We're a bit too bright. Medium res is a different output, so that's better there. Okay, medium res is good. Beautiful. Okay, so with that being said, let's grab good old Cruisin' USA and plug it in, and we'll swap our video input to our JAMA. And yes, we are successful. Turn the brightness down a bit. Well, it's as low as it goes. Yeah, we need to turn our screen pot down a little bit. There we go. So, like I say, medium is a different video output, and so is the TPG. So when you hook this up to an actual PCB and in a cabinet, you won't have to do this fidgeting all the time with the controls. Once you get it set where it needs to be set to, then you'll be good. So, okay, H position. We're a bit too wide, so let's bring the width down a bit. Right there. Vertical position. Right there. And on this tube, we're a little too green right now, so let's turn our green bias down. That's good. Contrast up slightly. There we go. Yeah, I gotta play around with these colors a little bit. That's not bad. I got little gouging issues up on the top, but no big deal. Okay, I would say medium res is good. Sorry about the glare on the light here. It's just I don't have any way to block it. And if I put a block up here, then I can't turn the monitor tubes around, but that's looking real good. Okay, now let's hot swap over. No, I can't hot swap because I got to change the resolution pins. All right, let's grab trusty old MK2. We'll hook up MK2 and we'll move our little white vertical sweep mod back over to the white wire connection. And then our resolution header back over to standard. And okay, here we go, MK2. And now we're 117.4. So medium res about 116.6. Standard is 117.4, so close enough. Okay. Now you can see how dark this is compared to medium res because it's just a different output. So let's adjust our vertical hold. Boop, there we go. And we need to turn our brightness back up to right there. Contrast right there. Let's do H position over a little bit. And all right, we are a little too blue. I went up a little bit too high on the blue. That's good. Okay. Okay, height is too tall. Vertical position needs to come down. Bring our height up a little bit. Width is good. Well, there you go. This U5000 is now successfully repaired and it looks and works great. This vertical hold is jumping around here. I need to clean these pots, but there you go. Let's give it a minute or so, make sure it stays stable here. I'm going to turn the light out. Let's make sure it stays stable, isn't jumping around on us. And yeah, I think this is good to go. So we had an R760 that was too anemic. I'll say it's too anemic. It was, I mean, it probably would have worked, but you know, I had the other U5000 that was the same revision, and it had a much beefier R760. Not only that, it had a 500 ohm R760. This one had a very anemic R760, and it was only 100 ohms. So I put I'll say proper. I'll put the proper one in, and then we also had the bad Q708, if I recall. So that was good, or that was part of our problem, I should say. It's good now. So we had those two components, and that's about it. So yeah, I didn't really see anything else. Where's our H position again? There we go. I'm just a little stickler for having it be proper. So yeah, there you go. What do you think? Thumbs up? I say thumbs up. So, all right. Not too painful. Everyone gives the U5000 a bad rap because they consider it difficult to work on. But case in point, if you really know what you're doing and you've got experience, the U5000, the U2000, they're not any more difficult to work on than any other chassis. You just got to know what you're doing. So that being said, I'll let it run for a number of hours on each resolution, make sure nothing goes haywire, and I'll let the owner of this know that it's good to go, and we will move on to the next video here. So thanks very much. Hopefully you learned something. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.